If anything kills over 10 million people in the next few decades, it's most likely to be a highly infectious virus.
If we get an airborne pandemic, if we haven't built ahead of time some structures to deal with this, millions of people could be adversely impacted.
But also there will be a surprise outbreak. The next administration, that there's no doubt in anyone's mind that they will be faced with the challenges that their predecessors were faced with.
Pandemic prevention and preparedness is going to end up being, whether the administration likes it or not, a priority, a top priority.
Trump is now president. When he faces his first major epidemic, as his predecessors have, he will likely project his impulsivity, xenophobia, and cavalier attitude towards facts to over 52 million followers.
We may yet again have another pandemic, and it is almost inevitable that we will have another pandemic.
Welcome to Event 201.
Of what's looking like it will be a severe pandemic.
A new coronavirus.
Why don't we blow the system up and then say, hey, everyone in the world should get this new vaccine. We haven't given it to anyone yet.
But it is not too crazy to think that an outbreak of a novel avian virus could occur in China somewhere. We could get the RNA sequence from that and print those vaccines on a package.
Now, if we do a really great job on new vaccines, healthcare, reproductive health services, we could lower that by perhaps 10 or 15%.
This is not about freedom, personal choice.
Every product on the market, you can sue the manufacturer for harm, for design defect claims, meaning the claim that the product could have made safer. I mean, literally, look around this room, planes, cars, pharmaceutical drugs, every one. There's only one product in America. You cannot sue the manufacturer for design defect claim, to claim that it could have been made safer, and that are vaccines. I heard, injections, vaccines. My definition of vaccine is any product for which the government needs to give it immunity from harms. To me, that's what a vaccine is, because some prevent infection, some don't. That's what a vaccine is, meaning it can't survive without that immunity, apparently. Why did vaccines get this immunity, which was provided in 1986 under the National Childhood Vaccine Injury Act? Because leading up to 86, there were only 3 routine childhood vaccines, MMR, OPV, and DTP, and they were causing so much harm and causing so much liability that all the manufacturers were going out of business to stop making them. And Congress, instead of forcing those manufacturers to do what every other product manufacturer needs to do in that situation, which is what? Make a better, safer product. Instead said, you know what? We're just going to give you immunity. We're going to make it so nobody can sue you for those harms. And you can keep selling your product to the American public no matter how many children it kills or injures. The issue is that immunity was not just given for those 3 products. It was given for any childhood vaccine, routine child vaccine that was developed thereafter. I tell you this not to take issue with childhood vaccines, but to explain to you the regulatory framework in which vaccines have developed over the last 40 years. We have now gone from 3 injections in the first year of life under the CDC schedule in 86 to 29 injections, including in utero, if a child follows the CDC schedule today. Every one of those vaccines, save one, was developed by a pharmaceutical company knowing they would not be responsible for the injuries that are caused by those products. So when you have drug trials where pharmaceutical companies, they care about losing money, they don't want to lose money on their drugs, they often do multi-year placebo-controlled trials before they get on the market because they don't want to end up upside down. They're there to make money. But with vaccine products, because they don't have that financial incentive, they have the disincentive. Almost every childhood vaccine in this country is licensed based on clinical trials with no placebo control, save for COVID-19 vaccine, often days or weeks, up to maybe 6 months of safety review after injection, and are often extremely underpowered. Those trials could never have really confirmed the safety of this product. And my submission to this committee laid out every single vaccine and put them in detail.
The unvaccinated are basically beating their breasts, running around the country saying, we don't care, we're living free, and so forth.
None of the vaccines, including the COVID vaccine, has not been properly tested.
Absolutely. Not a single childhood vaccine, I could tell you, has gone through a placebo-controlled clinical trial of sufficient duration and power to assess that it was safe before being injected into millions of children in America.
All right.
I can say that categorically, not because it's my opinion, but because anybody who goes to the FDA website could see that for themselves by looking at the package insert and the underlying clinical trial documents that are available on the FDA website.
You have to start blaming the unvaccinated folks, not the regular folks.
Pfizer reported that its vaccine shows a 95% efficacy. That sounds like it protects you 95% of the time, right? But that's not actually what that number means. That 95% refers to the relative risk reduction, but it doesn't tell you how much your overall risk is reduced by vaccination. For that, we need absolute risk reduction. In the Pfizer trial, 8 out of 18,198 people who were given the vaccine developed COVID-19. In the unvaccinated placebo group, 162 people got it, which means that even without the vaccine, the risk of contracting COVID-19 was extremely low at 0.88%, which the vaccine then reduced to 0.04%. So the net benefit, or the absolute risk reduction that you're being offered with a Pfizer vaccine, is 0.84%. That 95% number, that refers to the relative difference between 0.88 and 0.04%. That's what they call 95% relative risk reduction. And relative risk reduction is well known to be a misleading number, which is why the FDA recommends using absolute risk reduction instead. Which begs the question, how many people would have chosen to take the COVID-19 vaccines had they understood that they offered less than 1% benefit? You're entitled to know the risks and side effects.
I would like to reduce the number of people on the planet because there's too many of us.
25% of Americans, 52% of Americans believe that the vaccines are causing injuries, including death. 52%. If you look at the clinical trial studies, the actual studies that were done that were released of the Pfizer vaccine, Moderna has not released it. If you look at the Pfizer vaccine, there were 22,000 people in the placebo group, 22,000 people who got the actual vaccine. And the people who got the vaccine had a 23% higher death rate from all causes at the end of that study.
But that could not be the disease itself?
No, well,
because we know that
if it is, then the vaccine doesn't work, does it?
Well, it's certainly...
Anyone you came into contact with will blame you, as will the rest of us who've done the right thing by getting vaccinated.
Vaccines, and these are the things that I'd like to highlight. Number one, there is no education in medical schools that I am aware of, and being an educator at the Cleveland Clinic Lerner College of Medicine and Case Western Reserve University, I am not aware of education around vaccines, their contents, safety records, informed consent, or the Vaccine Injury Compensation Program. We do not discuss that in 1986, Congress enacted legislation removing all liability from pharma related to vaccine adverse events. What are we taught about vaccines? We are taught to memorize the vaccine schedule. And actually, I'm going to be sitting for my family medicine boards this year, and I am sure that I will have to memorize that schedule again in order to pass that exam. We don't discuss that almost $4 billion with a B has been paid to vaccine-injured patients since 1992. For medical professionals, we expect fair balance, but vaccines seem to be absolved from that consideration. Number two, there appears to be a conflict of interest regarding payments to providers for completing vaccine schedules. And a corollary to that, which would be number three, patients are being dismissed from practices because of, quote-unquote, vaccine safety concerns. If you bring up a question about a vaccine and you decide not to vaccinate your child, you may be at risk of being terminated from that practice. Absolutely deplorable and disgusting. Number four, and again to the Bailey family, I'm really sorry, but employers are forcing employees to receive the flu vaccine or face corrective action or job loss. And the fact that your dad was 6 months from retiring is, number five, there's a lack of informed consent. And I was one of those providers who didn't provide safety sheets before vaccinating. I would tell the parents, these are the vaccines today. We're going to give you 3 vaccines in one leg and 2 in the other. And then after vaccinating either the child or the adult patient, here's your information sheet. And again, to be completely transparent with you, I had no idea that there was even a mention of the compensation program or a telephone number to call. Absolutely deplorable on my part, and I apologize to my patients. Number 6, there's a lack of transparency regarding vaccine complications. And worse, you're being shamed as patients for suggesting that you were harmed by a vaccine. If I see a patient in the office and diagnose strep throat and give them penicillin, and either the mom or the patient themselves calls and tells me that they developed a rash, there is zero question. The chart now states they have an allergy to penicillin and will never be given it again. Why don't we believe parents and patients when they tell us they have had an adverse event regarding a vaccine? It doesn't make sense to me as a medical professional. I apologize for the...
You are the unvaccinated. You are the problem. It is the unvaccinated who are the problem. Period. End of story.
Good evening, everybody. Well, in their own words, the leaders of Brevard County's GOP say that they believe the vaccines are a biological weapon. As you say, this is the executive committee of the party in Brevard. They haven't hit send on this letter yet. But that vote coming up at 6:30, and I'm told it's very likely going to pass. If it does, they're asking state leadership to make it illegal to give or to take mRNA vaccines in Florida. In this 4-page letter, complete with footnotes, Brevard County Republicans cite sources which led them to a stunning conclusion. Here it is in their own words. Government agencies, media, and tech companies, and other corporations have committed enormous fraud by claiming COVID-19 injections are safe and effective. Strong and credible evidence has recently been revealed that COVID-19 and COVID-19 injections are biological and technological weapons.
You're basically punishing the vaccinated for the sins of the unvaccinated.
The best data are autopsies. So in the largest autopsy series published to date, I know because I'm the senior author, of all the deaths we examined, and we re-reviewed them. We had an adjudication committee. We had ways of arbitration deciding on did the vaccine cause death. The answer is, of these cases that came in for autopsy after vaccination, 73.9% of individuals, it was determined that the vaccine was the cause of death. First author is Holscher and colleagues. He's sitting right behind me.
Only people that you can blame. The only people you can blame. This isn't shaming. This is the truth. Maybe they should be shamed. But the unvaccinated.
Tina said about the change in personality, depression, and all these things. This is very real. And we have identified the reasons from the theory, and some doctors in Italy some pathologists have confirmed that. The spike protein, unfortunately, attacks and destroys also the endocrine system. So the glands producing hormones, and hormones are what make our emotions and feelings and all those things. And so an Italian pathologist near Venice, he went on a newspaper telling that all the brains he had investigated, he found the pineal gland completely destroyed on all the people who were vaccinated. Okay, so the spike protein is also very dangerous for the endocrine system. That's why people have these changes in personality. And
because frankly, we know that we can't trust the unvaccinated.
Heart damage from the COVID-19 vaccines. I'm a cardiologist. I know that. Now, the topic today is myocarditis or heart damage from the COVID-19 vaccines. I'm a cardiologist. I know the topic well. I've examined thousands of patients with this problem. Thousands. Before the pandemic, I had 2 patients ever with this problem. There's 1,065 papers in the peer-reviewed literature on COVID vaccine myocarditis. So let me summarize them for you. The first one that came on my radar screen that was alarming came from Washington University in St. Louis, August 18th of 2021. The first author is Verma and colleagues. New England Journal of Medicine. 42-year-old man comes into Washington University Hospital with vaccine myocarditis. The infection is ruled out. It's the vaccine. He's in the hospital. This is one of our best hospitals in the United States. He dies 3 days after taking Moderna. They can't save him in the hospital.
Say, Dr. McCullough, move the microphone just a little bit away from you.
Then one was reported from Korea by Choi and colleagues. This is now a younger man. Just a few days after Pfizer, he comes in the hospital. He dies within 8 hours of being in the hospital. I can tell you, I'm a cardiologist. That doesn't even happen with heart attacks. He dies within 8 hours. I examined all of the slides and the images that the Koreans had showed us. It looked like somebody took a blowtorch to that heart. It was so completely fried with inflammation. His heart was destroyed. These cases, which were widely known at the time, should have gotten everyone's attention. Everyone should have been laser focused on this. We should never have someone die after taking a vaccine. That's directly caused to the vaccine. Then Gill and colleagues, Connecticut, published in Archives of Pathology. 2 boys, aged 16 and 17, who die a few days after taking Pfizer. These are teenagers. They're found dead at home by their parents. They're absolutely horrified.
I think it's time to get our moral house in order
Anderson. It's the unvaccinated who are the threat.
Other humans and other animals in vaccines is to trigger an autoimmune reaction. Now I'm going to set this up for everybody. I feel sick. This is to make you aware. This is the autoimmune industry complex. Inject people without them asking or knowing DNA from other species and other humans into their body. You will wreck their immune system and create autoimmune diseases for life. Do you want to know how I know it?
No.
Real simply. Have you ever heard of a person getting an organ transplant?
Sure.
Yes. Name an organ that they like to transplant. Kidneys. Kidneys are a good one. Yep. Kidneys, liver, hearts, right? You get all these, right? Lungs for pulmonary fibrosis. They have lots of organs they do transplants from. When a person you've ever known gets an organ transplant, that organ is coming from another human.
Yeah.
So they're finding someone who died or has sacrificed their own organ, and they're going to put that organ inside of your body. Let's give the kidney, for example. When they do that and they wake you up from the surgery, they then immediately prescribe to you 10 to 15 drugs for life that are called anti-rejection drugs. Okay. Your immune system's going to reject the organ and kill it. Why? Your immune system knows it ain't yours. Foreign, yeah. So it's going to go attack it. After it creates antibodies that totally destroy that organ, if you weren't on those drugs, that organ that you just received from somebody else has the DNA structure of kidneys. Guess what happens after it gets done attacking that kidney? It's going to be, those antibodies are floating around your body looking for what? Kidneys? Kidney cells, kidney tissue. They are going to then start attacking your kidneys, and you will develop autoimmunity of your kidneys, chronic kidney failure, and you will be on dialysis for life.
Jeez.
The body, we know, will reject and destroy any tissue that's foreign that isn't your DNA. This is a great design by God, by the way. Don't put other DNA in your body.
Right.
So now you put Cocker Spaniel DNA inside of a 6-month-old. You put hepatitis B inside of a 12-hour-old baby. Yeah. And you set them up for autoimmune diseases lifelong. This is why you get juvenile rheumatoid arthritis, juvenile diabetes, SIDS. Why did you get all these conditions of autism? This is so many more diseases.
History teaches us that the next pandemic is a matter of when, not if.
This issue to do with the technology and the digital infrastructure, I just want to emphasize how important I think that is. Because in the end, you need the data. You need to know who's been vaccinated and who hasn't been. Some of the vaccines that will come on down the line will be multiple. There'll be multiple shots. So you've got to have, for reasons to do with the healthcare more generally, but certainly for a pandemic or for vaccines, you've got to have a proper digital infrastructure. And many countries don't have that. In fact, most countries don't have that.
People are not behaving honorably. The unvaccinated are basically saying, well, it's open season for me. I can do whatever I want as well.
So 5 billion people on the planet got a vaccine of some sort. If you apply the range of the death rate in the U.S. that I gave you earlier, you get a range of globally 7.3 million to 15 million died from the vaccine. And that,
7 million to 15
million. Yeah. And so there's been a study by Dennis Rancourt. We've looked at his methodology. It's different than what we do. We're not saying it's wrong. It's an estimate. And he came up with 17 million, which I think you talked about. So yep. our upper range is right there with Dennis Rancourt. Okay. Disabilities, when you look at the ratio of 4 to 1, you multiply the 7 million and the approximately 15 million times 4, you get a range of 29 to, let me see, I got to look at the numbers, 29 to 60 million disabled globally. Okay.
29 to 60 million disabled globally.
Correct. And then injuries, if you take 18% of the vaccinated, just using the Pfizer, so that, again, this could be muddy, but we get a range of, at the high end, 900 million, 500 million at the low end, injured.
500 million to 900 million who had an injury that has not disabled.
We've been patient, but our patience is wearing thin.
Only people that you can blame. The only people you can blame. This isn't shaming. This is the truth. Maybe they should be shamed. But the unvaccinated.
You must know that a claim that you must do something for your health and safety is what is called, it's an excuse. It's an ostensible reason. These people who are trying to take our lives away from us. Always use two things. It's always two things. They'll tell you about something using the excuse, the ostensible reason. So in this case, it'll be you have to be jabbed to protect you from marauding viruses. The real reason is I'm afraid they want to make you ill and kill you.
You're basically punishing the vaccinated for the sins of the unvaccinated.
That is the truth. It's absolutely clear. There's really only one senior institution. It's a group of people who you can see as supranational groups from the UN, WHO, the International Panel on Climate Change, the World Economic Forum, Bilderberg's. You should see them as the same. They're different manifestations. Trilateral Commission. Keir Starmer's a member of the Trilateral Commission, the only elected British politician who's a member of this globalist group, at least that particular one. They're all founded by the same group of people. They've been running for decades to much longer than a century. And I believe they believe their destiny is to control all us little people, all us. They see us as useless eaters. Useless eaters. Where have you heard that phrase before? What happens to useless eaters, do you think? I think they believe it's their destiny, maybe their obligation, to take control of everyone, everywhere, forever, using digital means. So digital ID, digital money, geolocation, and an obligation to be injected, something like that. You don't need much more than that. The control mechanism is so frighteningly simple.
If we really want to prevent the next pandemic, and there will be one, there will absolutely be an outbreak of another pandemic. It may be next year.
Do you think people are now coming around? Because you've been fighting to have this debate for quite a while, haven't you?
Well, the evidence was pretty considerable 18 months ago when I first spoke out. I mean, it's overwhelming now. Every week there's more evidence. Paper out last week in Japan of a clear link now between people who've had the boosters and the increased cancer. We know why. It's the SV40, the simian virus 40 promoter region that Pfizer didn't disclose are in their vaccines. I mean, there's a clear link with promoting cancer.
And so are you seeing more MPs now than before coming to your side?
No, the MPs have got their hands in the blood up to their armpits, most of them. They'll have put out thousands, hundreds if not thousands of letters saying that the vaccines are safe and effective over the last few years. There's a general election coming later this year and they really just want to hold the line until after the general election because there is, on both sides of the House, there's so much political capital that the vaccines are safe and effective, which they're neither safe nor effective. Now, I was thrown out of the Conservative Party for tweeting that a leading cardiologist had said that the vaccine rollout is the biggest crime against humanity since the Holocaust. I'm afraid I think it's going to be bigger than the Holocaust because I think we've got to be somewhere between 10 and 20 million people have been killed by these experimental vaccines worldwide, and it's still going up.
When we invest in clean energy and electric vehicles and reduce population,
What the?
more of our children can breathe clean air and drink clean water.
15日、なんと1800万人の接種回数人数分のデータが蓄積されております。
者がオレンジで、接種者と非接種者を正確に比べようということをしてみますと、非接種者はね、山はできないっていうのは、これ当たり前なんですよね。打っても別になくなるわけじゃない、打っていませんので、何の問題もなく、フラットになるわけです。問題は接種者の方なんですけれども、緑のグラフ。それが初め低いんですが、1週間、2週間は少ないんです、むしろ。で、1月ぐらいから山がですね、大きくなってきまして、3ヶ月、4ヶ月目にすごい山ができるということになるわけです。それでですね、これっていうのはどういうことかっていうと、おそらく、打ったお医者さんたちは、打った当日、翌日、1週間ぐらいに関して言うと、おそらくワクチンの影響だろうということで、副作用が発生した、副反応が発生して多分亡くなったということになりまして、PMDA にですね、送るわけですよ、その情報。ところが、1月、2月です。もう一つ。それからもう一つ、分かったことなんですけども、接種をですね、 打てば打つほど山が前の方、左の方に、移動しているという現象も分かりまして、接種回数が増えていくと、死亡者の山の出現が早くなります。ということは、打てば打つほど死にやすくなると。より短い期間で、亡くなる人が増えてくるということでありまして、それでまずですね、山ができる、で、ワクチン接種に毒性だとか死亡を誘導する効果がなければ、山にまずならないわけですよ。これがまず一つの発見で、打つ回数が増えれば増えるほど移動していくというふうなことは、打ったですね、毒性が重複どんどんしていって、回数が増えれば増えるほど早くなくなっていくというふうなこと。
Unvaccinated, a group that includes children and people acting like children. And the rest of us are starting to get pissed off.
Who died on days 3 and 4 after the Pfizer vaccine, and the parents were horrified to find the children dead at home. Autopsies were performed, and the conclusion was crystal clear. The vaccines caused the death with massive heart inflammation and evidence of superimposed catecholamine injury on the heart. Fatal reports have come in from Choi and from Verma, Choi in Korea, Verma from Washington University in St. Louis. It is clear that a vaccine is being pushed, is being encouraged and mandating that in fact results in death of children. Results in death of children. One death is too many. All current vaccines be pulled from the market and undergo a very intensive review on safety and efficacy and figure out where the vaccine program has gone wrong. I submit to you the COVID-19 vaccines and all of their progeny and future boosters.
We need more money to plan for the second pandemic. There's going to be another pandemic. We have to think ahead.
We are seeing now a third false narrative. The first false narrative was that the virus is unassailable. We have to stay in lockdown and be fearful. The second false narrative is take a vaccine. It's safe and effective. The third false narrative now is it's not the vaccine causing these problems. It's COVID. It's COVID that we saw back in 2020 causing all these problems in 2023. Don't fall for the false narrative. The medical literature at this point in time is compelling. The Bradford Hill criteria for causality have been fulfilled. The vaccines are causing this enormous wave of...
All the vaccinated folks are going to start wearing masks to protect the unvaccinated folks. It's called a Christian value.
This right, like as he did, right underneath, and try and keep it, that feels pretty tight right there, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, so you can, just breathe naturally, and let's just see what happens. Okay. All right, so we're at 1,367. We've already just passed 2. So now we're in the place where he could be having headaches. He can be, we're at 3,786. Look at this. We've just passed 5,000. Now we're in the toxic level. Right now we could be doing this 7,000 inside this mask of the CO2. 8,000 parts per million. And now this thing's gone off the Richter scale, folks. It can't even register how high the CO2 levels are inside. And look how many seconds that was.
Most of the work we're going to do to be ready for pandemic 2, I call this pandemic 1. We just need to mess around.
Well, maybe it's time for us to be a little meaner. Maybe it's time for us to be a little more fierce. Well, when it's a dolt like Donald Trump, you bully the out of him back. You push back. You make sure they know it's not there.
I will go and take Trump out tonight. Take him out now.
I just don't even know why there aren't uprisings all over the country. Maybe there will be.
There needs to be unrest in the streets for as long as there's unrest in our lives.
You got to be ready to throw a punch. You have to be ready to throw a punch.
Donald Trump, I think you need to go back and punch him in the face.
That I thought he should have punched him in the face.
I feel like punching him.
I'd like to take him behind the gym if I were in high school. If we were in high school, I'd take him behind the gym and beat the hell out of him.
Please, get up in the face of some Congress people.
People will do what they do.
I want to tell you, Gorsuch, I want to tell you, Kavanaugh, you have released the whirlwind.
and you will pay the price.
Show me where it says that protests are supposed to be polite and peaceful.
We definitively will have to face other surprises, black swans, as they are called, maybe different kinds of viruses.
And then we have another crazy billionaire, Bill Gates, says there's too many of us. His thing by 2030 is to depopulate the planet. And I just wondered, like, are we part of the population that he wants to There's too many of us. And he says it. And people go, it's a conspiracy theory. This is a conspiracy theory. He said it. Bill Gates, you go see on YouTube. He says one of the goals by 2030 is to lower the population of the planet. And one of the ways to do that is using vaccines.
Reducing population growth, that's this big benefit. The key thing you can do to reduce population growth is actually improve health.
It's like, what? And people go, no, that's a conspiracy theory. So he said it. You can go see. He said, yeah, but it's a conspiracy theory to think, he meant what he said. He meant it. He's doing it. And it's working.
First, we've got population. The world today has 6.8 billion people. That's headed up to about 9 billion. Now, if we do a really great job on new vaccines, healthcare, reproductive health services, we could lower that by perhaps 10 or 15%.
In the developed countries, the big winners are countries that have shrinking populations.
If we really want to prevent the next pandemic, and there will be one, there will absolutely be an outbreak of another pandemic. It may be next year.
The world today has 6.8 billion people. That's headed up to about 9 billion. Now, if we do a really great job on new vaccines, healthcare, reproductive health services, we could lower that.
We're taking things that are, genetically modified organisms, and we're injecting them in little kids' arms. We just shoot them right into the vein.
What the?
So in the next 5 to 10 years, for the next pandemic, we'll solve all those problems.
You say the next pandemic, there will be another pandemic.
Absolutely. We don't know when.
Bill Gates' appeal coating has been approved to be used on organic foods. The problem is it contains mono and diglycerides, and the manufacturing process for appeal may involve solvents like ethyl acetate, heptane, and trace heavy metals. Mono and diglycerides are explicitly banned to be used on organic foods by the USDA. However, regulators approved appeal as a fungicide, not a coating, a technical loophole that gets around organic certification rules. So while you think you're buying clean, untouched food, you're actually getting produce treated with compounds that critics warn may leave behind residues like arsenic, lead, and palladium. Mono and diglycerides are only permitted in organic production for drum drying, not as coatings. Organopeel's use as a coating violates USDA regulations. Appeal makes on average $84 million a year.
The EPA recently approved an experimental use permit to Oxitec, a biotech company funded by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. In an effort to fight malaria, Oxitec will soon release millions of genetically modified mosquitoes in various U.S. states. Programs are being developed to allow human immunization via mosquito bite. It was Science magazine that coined the phrase, flying syringes.
Just then, by sheer coincidence.
Oxford, Massachusetts, and 3 neighboring towns have a reason for concern as mosquitoes carrying a potentially deadly virus called Eastern Equine Encephalitis, or Triple E, infected a resident who is now fighting for his life.
We don't want to see another human case of Triple E this year.
The rare but dangerous disease can cause swelling in the brain. There's no treatment and anyone can get infected. The death rate is as high as 30%.
The city is applying pesticides to reduce the threat of the West Nile virus. To minimize exposure to the pesticide, please go indoors immediately.
Vietnam doesn't have anything. There's no such thing as autism in 1975, in year 2000, year 2001. There's no such thing. When Vietnam signed the WHO, and when Vietnam signed into the International Monetary Fund, the banking system, Bill Gates and the Gates Foundation introduced the vaccination program into Vietnam. Now Vietnam has over a 300% rise in autism.
Well, you heard earlier that there's no real concern about aluminum because it's such a small amount, and so it really shouldn't matter. But the kind of aluminum that we put into vaccines is a different kind of aluminum that we see environmentally. This is called a nanoparticle, and nanoparticles bind really tightly to the bacteria antigens, the virus antigens, the food protein antigens, and any other contaminants that are in the vaccines that we may not know about. And we know that the biochemical properties of nanoparticles is that they are capable of entering the brain. And so we have not evaluated the safety of the aluminum nanoparticle and its injection and where it goes when it gets into the body and whether it gets into the brain. Do vaccine ingredients belong in the brain? No. Do they get into the brain? No one has ever studied it. But animal studies using the same chemicals that are in vaccines that we give to children directly demonstrate that the vaccine ingredients do enter the brain. We are ignoring this information. There are scientists in Europe who've actually done studies on the aluminum nanoparticle and have shown that it can persist in the brain for years and decades. And so what we're seeing is a large outbreak of neurodevelopmental disabilities in adults, including Alzheimer's. And one of the main factors that they're finding in the brains of people with Alzheimer's is the aluminum nanoparticle that's directly related to the vaccines that we're giving. So we have never studied whether the aluminum that we're giving in vaccines gets into the brain, and we've never measured whether it stays in the brain and what it does if it does stay in the brain. But we do know that vaccines are supposed to cause inflammation in the body. But we have more than half of our children with chronic inflamed conditions. And we've never allowed ourselves to ask the question, if the vaccines cause inflammation acutely, do they continue to create inflammation chronically? We have 1 in 5 with neurodevelopmental disabilities, 1 in 10 with ADD and ADHD, 1 in 35 with autism, 1 in 11 with asthma, and 1 in 20 under the age of 5.
Miscarriages increased by 300% over the 5-year average, almost. We saw almost 300% increase in cancer over the 5-year average. Cancer is not being talked about except for by Dr. Ryan Cole. Thank you, doctor. We saw, this one's amazing, neurological. So neurological issues which would affect our pilots. Over 1,000% increase. 1,000.
10 times. That's 10 times rate, and obviously that
83,000 per year. I'm sorry, 82,000 per year to 863,000 in 1 year. Our soldiers are being experimented on, injured, and sometimes possibly killed. Dr. Corey, thank you so much for your stance on the corruption. That's precisely what it is. They know this. And Senator, when these doctors are attacked, not necessarily the people in this room, I'm not giving names, they call me. Submit this to the courts.
Because frankly, we know that we can't trust the unvaccinated.
Also, there will be a surprise outbreak.
No one, especially the president, is above the law.
No one is above the law.
No one is above the law.
No one is above the law.
Nobody is above the law.
No one is above the law.
Nobody is above the law.
No one 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 is above the law.
We've been patient, but our patience is wearing thin.
We know what's next. We're going to have another major coronavirus pandemic before the end of this decade, before 2030.
Oh, son of a bitch.